deGrasse Tyson, the
Okay.
astrophysicist, introduced me to space in a way that my mom had been trying for probably years prior.
For those of you that are watching this, I haven't gotten started yet, but I have Abby and her son in here. Abby's been on once. She's going to come on several times after this, but she's been on once so far. And she brought her son with her, who's here, and you're studying physics?
Yes, sir.
Physics at university because he's going to come out and become a physicist. No, I don't know. He doesn't know what he's going to be yet, but he's in college right now, and he's enjoying his time there. He's here, giving his mother, I think, mental support. She's just happy to see him anytime he comes, I can tell. She gets so excited. So what we're going to do, and he brought his lacrosse, what do you call it?
Lacrosse stick.
Cross stick here. And I was a little confused because I've never had anyone bring a prop, but he said for him, it represents more than just a prop. It's something really important in his life. So it's going to be a first. Without any further ado, Greg, I want to welcome you here. Thank you for coming so early in the morning.
Thank you, Lance.
And bringing your lovely mother. It's in the background. This is your day.
Okay.
Tell me, where were you born?
Well, I was born at the Stanford Hospital in Palo Alto, California, and my mom was working there at the time. And yeah, when I was born, we actually lived on a sailboat. Originally,
really?
Yes, sir. And
So you're living on a sailboat. So how long do you remember living there on the sailboat? How old were you when you finally left the sailboat?
I believe I was just about 1 year old when we left.
You didn't remember that.
I do not remember.
Because
that.
I met someone that said they remember being a year old.
Mm.
How old? What's the youngest you remember?
I actually do. I do remember
Really?
one memory. We had this ladder that went from the top of the boat into the cabin, and I do remember like holding the ladder. It's like this very nice dark brown wood, and we actually still have that ladder today.
Well, you took the ladder out the boat
Yes, sir.
and brought it.
Yeah.
Wow, that is neat. What a memory. So tell me, so what do you remember most in school? What kind of kid were you? Were you more academic or were you more sports-minded?
I was very much sports-minded.
Okay. Wait, you were ready for that? Wait, he was ready for that. Did you guys? I can tell by the way he answered that. You did, okay. A little prompting. He was ready for that one.
Yeah.
4 things he wants to talk about.
Yes, sir.
And you might have even said, hey, who can say?
Yeah, I may have gone over just a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
All right,
Yes,
okay. So tell me a little bit. What kind of kid were you?
Well, I was mostly athletic. I would like to run around all the time. I loved being outdoors. Anytime you'd see me outside, I either had a soccer ball or football, or maybe I was up in a tree. But I certainly loved being outdoors. I didn't care as much for reading at the time or trying to pursue academics. It just wasn't all that interesting. And I really got more interested in academics as I went through middle school.
Okay, what was that like?
Well,
Was it a particular teacher, or was it because at home, what fostered that interest in reading?
It was more of Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist. He introduced me to like space in a way that my mom had been trying for probably years prior. Like we had
You
a
saw him on
telescope.
TV?
Saw him on TV, on Netflix,
Right.
and I got really interested. I was like, wow, like this space stuff is really interesting, and then that kind of sparked my curiosity. So then I went through and started asking myself certain questions about where do the elements come from, or like where do we come from, which then brought me through this rabbit hole. And then I got to quantum mechanics, and at the time I was only in middle school and I had no idea what any of this meant, but I just kept reading about it, and it was a rabbit hole. So now I think I want to do particle physics.
Wow, that is so neat. But your mother had already planted the seed. She was trying to get you involved in it, right?
Yeah.
So when you saw him, it's the way that he brought it. He just helped to put water on the seeds that were already planted.
That's a very good way to say it.
That's interesting.
And my mom gave me a lot of support, and she pretty much let me run with whatever I was interested in. And if I didn't really like it, then it was no problem because at least I tried.
Right.
and she allowed me to just really pursue whatever I wanted.
What about your friends? What kind of friends did you have as a result of that?
Well, at the time, I had a lot of athletic friends,
Mm-hmm.
and also like me, not so much academics focused at the time. But then there was also a lot of kids, as I was trying to learn this stuff that was like way too advanced for me. They would sort of kind of make fun of me for that in a way. They were
What do
like,
you mean? How so? You said when you were trying to learn stuff that was too advanced. What do you mean?
they would kind of put me in like a poser sort of mentality, and I'd be maybe I don't know about this, and it kind of discouraged me from like openly pursuing it, and it was something I would just do like on the side. But now, my like of course my friends, as we've all gotten older, we just want each other to grow. So they've been very supportive, as well
Mm-hmm.
as like a family that I made.
Mm-hmm. Do you find most of these people that you're close to now, are they mostly just academic, or are they also involved in sports?
A lot of the friends I have now are actually an incredible mixture of both. They a lot of them are academic focused,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time they play like competitive rugby and competitive lacrosse. So it's really incredible the amount of like student athletes
Mm-hmm.
that are can really do both. It's very
Right.
inspirational.
Mhm. So when you got into sports, the sport that you excel most in was which one? Let's say when you got into high school.
Well, before I got into high school,
Okay.
I loved soccer, and because it was something I could play by myself. And growing up as an only child, my mom had to be my practice partner for a while, and she tried her hardest at that. But then
And you got much better than her.
I did, I did,
How old?
but
Do you remember that point when you knew you were better than your mother? Do you remember when that
it
was?
was fifth grade, yeah, in soccer.
So fifth grade, how old would you have been then? 11? No, fifth grade is what?
Yeah, it was about
11? 10,
10.
11?
Yeah,
So you could
10.
tell. What was the moment? Do you remember the moment when you thought, I'm better than my mother?
We were playing in the living room, and I do remember like the exact day. And we had a bookcase. We had a very open living room. It was a loft apartment, and we had a bookcase up against the back wall. And I would like I would ask her to try to like get the ball from me, and I would like make a move and then hit it between her legs, and then it would hit the bookcase. I'd be like, "Oh, golazo!" And so then I was like, "Yeah, okay, I can pretty much do anything."
You
So
knew you could beat her anytime.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But
There is a moment always because I remember playing Family Con with my sons,
mm,
the games. And I don't know if they knew, but I knew they were better than I was because they were doing it all the time. And I started playing. I said, maybe I should let this go. But I used to wrestle with them because I have 4 sons. And the 3 of them, there's a little space between the fourth and the third and the fourth because I try to keep it within a year and a couple of months, the first 3. But the fourth one, a little bit of space. So I remember the first 3 I'd wrestle with. And we would wrestle. And I remember when I could handle all 3 of them. I could grab them together and still get them when they were like 2 or 3 years old. Then I remember the point when I couldn't do that. When one would get behind me and put me in chokehold, and he's really choking me. So I had to say, okay, all right, okay, we're good. But I never let them get to the point where they felt they could really beat me.
mm.
I just stopped playing. I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
time to leave this alone. Did you do the same with him? Or did you just keep on playing?
I kept on playing, but he had done so many other sports too. He had been Shaolin Kung Fu and
Oh, you'd
hardcore.
started taking martial arts by that time?
Yes, actually, up until before soccer, I was very into martial arts. So I did taekwondo, I did kung fu, which was my favorite. It was Shaolin Kung
Before
Fu.
you were 11 years old, you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah. From probably age 8 to 11, I did different martial arts each year,
Which
and
did you favor any of them?
definitely Shaolin Kung Fu.
Did you ever get your splits?
Yes, I did actually, because our instructors made us stretch a lot, and at the right after we finished our stretching and warming up, we would go into the splits, and then
Straddle?
I
Yeah,
believe so, yeah. And then
yeah.
our instructors would come and like stand on our legs so that we could go to the floor all the way.
Well, you know what they
But
do in China? There's a tendon right here, right by your
mm.
groin, and they cut that sometimes.
Oh,
Or if it pops, That's what stops you. It's the only thing that's stopping your legs from going out. Because the only thing that stops me from putting my arm and bringing it over, like you see some of these contortionists, are ligaments and tendons. That's it. Because if you take all that away, your bones, you've seen a skeleton, you actually have all that movement. So what stops you if you have short tendons, or what makes people really good at doing it, if they have longer tendons. If they have longer tendons, then of course they can stretch further and everything else, but you have to stretch it, and some people don't have the elasticity because of diet or whatever, and it pops. And that's like breaking a bone.
I can imagine.
I'm a witness.
It'd be very painful.
As a gymnast, I had to do that, so go ahead.
My current love, which I picked up in high school, thanks to a lot of my friends, was lacrosse.
Okay.
And I started learning all about lacrosse and
from high school.
Starting my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was about 15 or so. And lacrosse is originally a Native American sport. And they refer to it as a medicine game because whether you're playing or watching it, you just feel a lot better afterwards. You get a sense of calm. It brings everyone together. But it was originally played over several days with thousands of people playing, and there were no out of bounds. So the game has really changed a lot.
And so you could just run, if you wanted to run into the woods, you could.
Oh yeah, the game would very often go into the woods, and sometimes tribes would settle disputes over games of lacrosse.
But the thing is, it's not physical as far as people hitting each other, is it?
It's very physical.
Oh, is it?
It's about just as physical as hockey, except fights get broken up a lot sooner.
Wait. Okay, explain, because I've seen it playing. Tell me the game. Okay, let's go through the rules of the game, because I'm not really sure.
So there are 10 people to a team.
Okay.
There are 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 attackmen, and then 1 goalie. And the goalie lives in what's called a crease. So it's a circle about, I believe, 3 feet in radius. And there can only be 6 people, not including the goalie, on one side of the field at a time. And you're allowed to pass the ball between the sticks. The ball can go on the ground. In fact, it goes on the ground a lot. But
you can't touch it with your hands.
Right.
You can't touch it with your feet.
You can.
You can touch it with your feet?
Yes. Yeah, you could even kick the ball into the goal and score like that.
Okay, what about your head?
That's allowed as well. So
okay, anything but your hands?
Yes.
So if you hit it with your shoulder and get it in, it's in?
Yep.
Okay, I got it. Wow, I didn't know that.
And I started playing, like I said, in sophomore year. And then I fell in love with it immediately because I was very bad at it. And that was honestly the first sport that I've been bad at immediately. Every other sport I've picked up.
How are you bad? What makes you bad?
Missing the ball, not being able to catch, inconsistent with my throws.
Okay.
But that wasn't entirely my fault because
you have to be able to catch that little ball with your
both hands.
Stick.
Yeah.
With both hands.
As in like both orientations, like
like either this way, left, or like right.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And
this way,
and everything in between and all around.
Everything in between. Like if you're really good, you can do it anyway.
Absolutely, that's the
I got
goal.
you.
And
wow,
I loved it so much. I would play multiple times a day, all throughout the summer, and it really became a way for me to relieve stress. And around the same time, we had moved onto the boat. We were living on it for a year at this time. And it was pretty stressful because I was also working. I worked at a horse farm, which let's talk about just after I finish this lacrosse.
Okay. All right.
But every time I would feel anxious or I needed a break and I needed to focus myself and kind of center myself, I would go out, play against the wall. And at the time, we were living in Fort Washington in Prince George's County, Maryland. And there was this local middle school. It was not too far away from the marina. And every day I would go out there and all the gear I had on was all like secondhand stuff. Like my friends gave me like their old gear that they weren't using anymore. I'm so thankful for that. But I would be out there hitting the wall every day. And then there was one goal out there, like raggedy beat up goal. Like its net was kind of falling down. But I would go out there and I would shoot. And at the time I only had like 2 balls, which by no means were usable in like a real game. But I'd still go out there every day, often twice a day, and then I would go see my friends in Alexandria, and then I'd play with them there. So I got pretty good pretty quickly.
Wait, let me try to picture this in my head because I haven't really watched lacrosse.
Mm.
So when you say when you were practicing against a wall, you'd take it in your stick, you throw the ball up against the wall, and before it hit the ground, you'd pick it, or even if it did, you'd pick it up and try to catch it again.
Yep.
You try to make sure it didn't pass you
Yes.
by catching it every single time you threw it against the wall. And you threw it at different ways each time.
Yep. And I played against a brick wall, and the brick wall has kind of like
Grooves
divots.
and stuff, so sometimes
Yeah.
it wouldn't come straight back.
Right.
It'd
And
go up, and you still have to try to catch it.
right. And the ball itself is made out of rubber.
Okay.
It's tightly compact. It's very dense if you ever
Right.
hold one. So they bounce back actually pretty quickly. And getting hit with one of those makes you not want to.
right. But when you're playing it, you're not wearing any mask or anything when you play, do you?
We do have to wear a helmet.
A helmet only.
Yeah.
But what about your face?
A helmet that encompasses
Your face?
a face.
Okay, so it's like a screen you have?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I
very
got you,
similar
okay.
to a hockey helmet.
I got you.
And
I
then
got
we
you.
also wear chest pads,
Right.
elbow pads, gloves, and cleats.
Okay.
Because
that
defensemen
ball-
are allowed to hit you pretty much anywhere except the face. And
With what? With their sticks?
with their stick, yeah. Like,
no, they don't.
I'm
No, come
serious. Yep.
on. Wait. To keep you off,
To get
No.
you from scoring. Yep. They can,
but only if you have the ball.
or within 5 yards from the ball.
Come on.
It is a brutal game.
Come on.
And it's
you mean you
really-
can have your arms, they can hit you with, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
come back with welts all over the place.
All over, including all down my legs as well. Yeah, it's just part of the game. But one thing I've learned
did not know
is
that.
if you just run really fast, the
This-
hits hurt a little less.
Little less.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
But
hard
if you
to catch
slow down and
Right, slow
stop,
down,
they
they
have
just-
so
they-
much time to just wail on you. So it's really a motivator to try to get
To
better.
keep you want to stay away.
Yes. In the defenseman point of view, if they hit you hard enough, you're not going to
You
want to
want to
try
come back.
again.
Yeah, oh.
Exactly. So
So you guys start to also know which teams have strong defensemen.
very cool.
So you want to stay away from this guy because he's been known to hurt people bad,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Wow.
And I've been injured to the point of I can't play the rest of the game
They hit you.
because of that.
We used to call it when you hit a muscle. Have you ever seen when someone hits you here and it swells up?
Yep.
We used to call these Charlie horses, I think.
Oh yeah, when it cramps up.
Right,
too
when it
bad.
cramps up. So they could hit you hard enough that would be a case you just don't want to come back.
Yeah, people have also broken bones because
I was
of
thinking so, yeah.
it. Yeah, but at the time,
And you go, wow, you're just as excited as you can be. You said, well, okay, come on, let's go.
yeah, I'm like, oh, I love it so much. It's so relaxing, and then you go out there and it's like a battle. But nevertheless, it's so much fun, and the best part about playing lacrosse is playing with others.
And the thing
Really.
is, because it's such a contact sport, you don't have time to think about anything but that.
Yep, it becomes very
This-
instinctual very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so that helps you relieve yourself and keep your mind off of anything else you might have been thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. And then afterwards, you're like, what was I so stressed about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like all I can think about is how much this hurts, or like how tired I am. So it's more of like very much a good distraction.
Now you
and-
said when you were doing this, you also worked at a horse
Yes, yes,
stable.
Yes. So
What were you doing there? What kind of stable was this? Were these
it was
riding horses or were they farm horses? What were they?
The horse farm was owned by this wonderful lady, Amaya Veach, and her husband, and it was a rehabilitation farm. So all the horses came from very poor conditions, where they were very malnourished, very poor living conditions. But 5 lucky horses came and stayed at the stable. And so every morning before school and sometimes after school, I would have to wake up around 3 a.m. and then go work on this farm, take them out to the pasture, clean their stables, and make sure the barn was like clean.
Did you look for this job by yourself, or did your mother say, "Guess what I got for you today, Craig"?
A little bit of both. I was looking for work, and
And
then
she said, "I found something for you."
yeah, they were needing a person, and they actually advertised it to the marina we stayed at,
Okay.
and then the marina put out this job, and I was like, this could be a good. My mom and I both said that this could be a good opportunity, and that it very much was
How long did you work there?
for 2 years.
You liked it that much? You worked there for 2 years.
Well,
Well, they treated you so well. You worked there for 2 years.
kind of a little bit of both, but I really did it mostly for the horses, and I just lived very close, so it was easy to just keep going.
What was your job? What did you have to do?
So,
Take me through a day. What
okay.
time do you have to get up?
So I would go to bed in my farm clothes because I would set my alarm for the most obnoxious alarm possible, and I'd set it like right next to my mom's. At the time, we were still on a boat, so I'd set it right next to her berth, and I would hear the alarm, and I'd immediately jump out of bed, turn the alarm off, and it was a way for me to try to not wake up my mom, but also make sure I don't snooze it and go right back to bed because like the horses were waiting for me. And then I would either ride my bike, or right before this, my mom had taught me how to drive, so I would drive myself, and I was about 14, 15 years old, and so,
Well, then you were driving illegally.
but
but
but it was like a farm.
okay, so nobody,
it's a little,
the police didn't patrol that area so much.
right,
Okay, I got
and
you. So you started driving at 14?
yes, yeah, because
Is that right?
it was so much easier to
Okay.
get to work, and it was only like a 5 minute drive, so it was
All right.
very, very easy. And I'd get there, the horses were already yelling that I was late, even though it was like 3:15. And so I'd get there.
Would it be dark?
It'd be pitch black.
Pitch black,
Yep.
okay.
And actually, the sun wouldn't come up until work was done. But I would firstly refill their waters.
How many of you were there?
It was just me.
Okay.
And a
Well, I'd
very
just say we'd fill their waters then.
there was also a trusty guard dog.
Okay.
His name was Rex.
Well, how did he helped you fill their water?
He helped me with courage because
Okay,
it was very dark.
All right, all
and
right. He was there
surrounded by
just in
woods.
case. I got you. Okay.
Yep. And so I would put their harness on, put their bridle on, and refill their water, give them food, give them their breakfast. And then as soon as they were done eating, I would take them out. It was about like a 300-meter walk to the pasture, maybe 200 meters. And then I would take 5 of them out, and then once all 5 of them were in there, close it up. I would go and clean out all their stables, and then pack it with new bedding, make sure their water was clean and full, and then I would sweep up. But the entire barn was brick, and so all these little shavings would get between the brick, and I had a broom. So I got really good at sweeping. And then I would take all the waste from the stables out. I'd dump it in this trash.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then once that was all done, that took about 2 hours, and then the sun would start to come up, so I'd drive back home, and then my mom would take me to school originally, but then it got too much because I was living in Fort Washington, Maryland, but I was going to school in Alexandria. So
Which is how far away?
it was about 20 miles, but we had to cross from Maryland to Virginia over the Wilson Woodrow Bridge.
Which sometimes will get crowded or something?
A lot of traffic, yeah,
Okay.
and my mom had to actually go right back across into Maryland
To
to
get
go
to
to
work.
work. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so she gifted me this electric bike, which went to about 28 miles per hour, and it had just enough charge to get me to school. So I would bike along the road, and then I'd get to school and then charge it up there. But I mean, even the bike, like getting there took about 45 minutes to an hour, and sometimes
Because of the traffic.
because of the traffic, and sometimes there would be debris on the side of the road because it wasn't very like bike friendly, and so sometimes my like tires would pop, or there's a lot of like obstacles in that regard.
And you're doing all this from the age of 14 up to 15, 16.
Yes, sir. And then
What a
after
good
this,
way to raise them. You did a great job. That kept you busy, man, and kept you strong.
yes, yeah, there's a really good quote of, if you want, you can either have a strong character or an easy life, but the cost of one is the other.
That's very
And
good.
reflecting on it, I definitely didn't have an easy life. So I guess
You
that,
had a very good,
but
you're very lucky.
it's good. Beyond thankful every day.
Yeah. It's not over.
No,
There's
no,
so
it's
much more
not.
to go.
Yeah.
A whole
And
lot.
I think to repay her, I just have to have like the best life I possibly could. And
There's something I used to say, that you had a 1 in the 300 millionth of a chance of being here. You beat out 300 million other sperm to get here, right?
all right,
That was the universe's gift to you. Now, what you become It's your gift to the universe.
Mm, that's so
So it's
true.
very similar to what you said. It's very similar to that. Now it's all about what you're going to do. How are you going to give it back? How are you going to develop yourself? You had this wonderful opportunity.
And now I think I know what I want to do.
Okay, let's get into it. What are you going to do?
Well,
When you get into college, wait, first of all, let's get into you. Okay, so that was about your work. Then from there, did you know what you wanted to do in college already? Had you already started working on physics
well,
in high
when
school? And you were thinking, okay, when I get into college, I'm going to study physics.
yeah, a little bit. I had that idea. Um, yeah, I'll touch like really briefly. When I was in high school, I did 2 years in Alexandria at T.C. Williams High School. Remember the Titans?
Right, okay,
Um,
yeah.
and then
Mhm.
transferred to Annapolis, Maryland,
Okay.
where then I did the International Baccalaureate program for 2 years. Got my IB diploma, but part of that was taking physics there. And I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm taking IB physics. Like, this is the first time I'm really doing something that I'm interested in. Because all through middle school, after I had the spark of curiosity, and the beginning of high school, I was like, okay, I want to learn science and I want to do physics, but I had to do all this other stuff
They
like
would let you do,
history and
right,
English.
to
I
get the
mean,
credits.
I understand why I had to take that, but it was just not my interest. So, of course, I didn't really care for it. So then once I got to IB, I was so excited, but it was right around COVID. And so unfortunately, my like professor, my instructor in IB didn't have his heart fully in it. And, he was going through like a lot of hard stuff himself, but made the course a little less interesting. And it almost discouraged me from doing physics altogether because I was like, this is boring. Like, if this is all it is,
What helped you not make it through?
well, that was hope that I had to give myself. And I was like, this is still so interesting. It was kind of impressive that it was that boring. So I was like, I'm just gonna have to try it myself and
Right.
see if
Because you don't want to believe it. You said it can't
yeah,
be this
yeah,
boring.
yeah. I was like, if Neil deGrasse Tyson can make it
Yeah,
interesting,
right.
and like someone can definitely,
That's what I say. It's so important that I was very careful, and I told my wife this all the time. I don't care where our kids go, but I do care about who impresses their feelings upon them, because teachers aren't just teaching their subject, they're teaching their attitude.
yeah.
So whenever I have a parent-teacher conference and the teacher stuff, what's your son like at home? I'd say, before we go there, you tell me what he's like at school,
Mhm.
because I know what he's like. I didn't say that to her, but I knew what he's like. I want to see if you do, because I'm paying a lot of money for my son to be with you, and I know you're giving him an influence. I want to know what type of influence you're giving him. Teachers are responsible for what they do, and you believe the subject was much more interesting because you'd seen it portrayed to you in a very interesting way
Yeah,
by
and
Tyson. You said, I'm going to find somebody who could do this. So what
right.
happened?
So then one of my best friends, Mason Mitchell, he wanted to go to Tech, Virginia Tech in the United States, and I was like, okay, like I think they probably have a good physics program as well. I actually didn't do too much research, but at the time living in Annapolis, I was like, okay, I want to go to the Naval Academy. I was really interested in joining the military as a way to pay for college. Went through the Corps of Cadets at Virginia Tech, and it was so Virginia Tech was originally a military academy, and the Corps of Cadets is what Virginia Tech is kind of built on. And so I went through that for an entire year. Freshman year is typically the hardest year, and then at the same time, I was doing physics, but it was a lot to do physics, to give all my time to physics, and have to do cadet responsibilities. So after my freshman year, I decided that I wanted to pursue physics more. And so I left the Corps of Cadets, and I'm fully doing physics. But I had a fantastic freshman physics teacher, two of them, Alma Robinson and Dr. John
They
Simonetti.
worked together? Or were
They
they two different times?
two different
Okay.
classes, but they were in charge of all freshmen.
So they worked, they knew each other. They
Oh
were really
yes,
tight. And
yes,
they made it good, didn't
they made it so good,
they?
and they actually opened my eyes to teaching because back to when I was a sophomore in high school playing lacrosse in Fort Washington, I I would be there so long throughout the day. I'd be there for probably 6 hours around a typical day playing lacrosse. I would see football coach, Coach Marvin, and I'd see his group of kids who were in like middle school, a little younger than me, about 4 years younger than me. And after I was done playing lacrosse, coach would be like, "You want to work with my kids?" And at the time, I was like 4 years older. I was like, "Of course!" Like, I would give these kids the work any day. So, so I would work with them and then teach them everything I know about lacrosse, which at the time was not much because I'd only been playing for a year, or not even a year at the time. But nevertheless, I would work with them as much as I could. I enjoyed it so much, passing on what I knew. And now at Virginia Tech, my teachers opened my eyes to teaching, and now throughout my sophomore year and actually, yeah, throughout my sophomore year last year, I was a learning assistant for both a physics lab, so I was helping intro physics lab, teaching them the scientific method, teaching them how to use uncertainty and measurements, all that good stuff. And then most recently, I was a learning assistant for intro physics lecture. So it was a little different, but in both cases, I really enjoyed like helping others because both of us benefit. The kids that wanted to learn, but also me because it solidified what maybe the gaps that I didn't even know I had. Because
And
the
you keep on
students,
learning. You continue to learn.
right?
If you truly want to learn a subject, teach it. And it does something else too. If you're that type of person, you've been raised right, it keeps you humble.
Yes, because I would be asked questions
No,
that
no, no, no.
honestly I didn't know the
And you
answer
have to say
to.
that, but
Yeah,
it's when you stop being humble, when you start thinking you really know, that's when you have a mistake. You have to be somewhat confident, but tell them we're going on a journey.
yeah,
And what works, works. What doesn't work, find out how to try to make it work. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, the questions they're asked, I mean, even my Alma and Dr. Simonetti, they still ask questions to this day, and they've been teaching for over 20 years that they don't know the answer
Well,
to.
they should have more questions. The longer you're doing it, the more questions you'll have. My
Mm,
father, who I really praised him for doing this with me, because he raised me in my teen years, and he said, whenever we had spirited debates, he used to call them spirited debates, because he knew
I
I
like
didn't know
that.
what I was talking about. He'd say, okay, there's your side. When he had enough, he said, there's your side, my side, and the right side. Why don't you wait for a little while and come back to me when you find out what the right side is? And then it'd usually be about 2 or 3 weeks later, and he'd say, you remember we were discussing such and such? And because I'd been doing something, riding my bike, or whatever, and he'd say, you remember? I said, yeah. He said, well, did you find out what it was? And I think, you're right. You know what? What? He said, what? He said, I can't hear you. Can you please enunciate a little bit more? I said, you're right. Well, I thought so. Okay, I just wanted to hear if you found it. But he never would tell me I was wrong.
Mm,
He'd always, whenever he got to the point to where he'd really say, okay, you're going to push this because you don't know. You know, and
right.
sometimes maybe he didn't know, but I never came up to any of those times. He usually knew, but he said, there's your side, my side, and the right side. And I tried to raise my sons the same way. And I say, no matter how mad you may be with me, I want you to always leave the avenue or the road of communications open. Just always be able to talk. I don't care what I do, let's at least be able to talk. And always keep that open.
It's more important about the growth as opposed to saying who was right and who was wrong.
All right, so you found these two good physics teachers. Are you still in close contact with them? You're still talking with them now? You're still in their
Yes,
class?
I see them a lot, and it's still always amazing to see
You
them.
give them a shout out?
Yes, hi Alma, hi Dr. Simonetti. Miss you guys a lot. You guys are amazing. And they opened my eyes to this program called the PhysTech program, so
Okay.
Physics Teaching and Education, where I can actually get my master's in education at Virginia Tech, sponsored by Tech, and then all I have to do is teach high school for a little bit afterwards, but that's kind of exactly what I want to do because I want to give back to my community. I want to show kids that physics is not, in fact, boring. It's actually very exciting and useful. So, sort of this idea of mentorship is sort of my driving purpose at the moment. And I think it really is also solidified because this incredible thing happened right before I came here my friend Mason and I, we were going to the gym. We were going to the YMCA, but we stopped by this vitamin shop in Potomac Yards, Alexandria. One of the dozens in Alexandria. And there in the vitamin shop was this guy, and it was just the three of us. And then he started talking about, we were all wearing lacrosse stuff, so he started asking about lacrosse, and he was like, yeah, my youngest kid, Bam, he plays lacrosse. And I was like, wait a minute, do you live in Fort Washington? He's like, yeah. I was like, I'm Greg. And he's like, no freaking way. So it was Coach Marvin who was working there. And it had been the football coach.
How many years had it been? How many years had it been?
5 years.
So he didn't recognize you. Did you have a beard?
I had my beard. I had this long hair.
So and then he looked in your eyes and said, Greg!
Yep. So we dabbed up, we hugged.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And apparently he was telling me that.
But you didn't recognize him either.
I did not.
Why? How was he different?
Well, when I met him, he was a massive guy, and I mean he's still like very fit. I think he just leaned down a little bit.
Okay.
And he also had a beard at the time, and he trimmed that. So neither of us recognized each other, but the moment he said Bam, which was his kid that I worked with, Bam and I, we pushed each other a lot. He's 4 years younger than me, but he continued to push me, and he's getting so much better every day. Like right now, he's doing great things. And he actually inspired me to try out for the team at Virginia Tech. I was thinking, maybe I don't have time. Physics is a lot, but I enjoy lacrosse a lot.
So you tried out for the team?
I'm trying out this season.
You're trying out this season?
Yep.
You're going to get on the team this season, all right.
Yes, sir.
That is neat.
And apparently, Coach was telling me that he would actually see me out there when I was playing wall ball. He would see me almost every day when he would drive by. He'd see me ripping up the nets. He'd see me playing wall ball. And this was in the middle of the summer. And I was in my helmet, and it was like 100+ degrees and humid. Nevertheless, I was out there. And so he actually used my image in my work ethic as a standard for his team, for his kids. And because of that, his kids and all his players are actually like nationally ranked because of the standard that he imposed. And I had no clue. He was telling me all this when I saw him. And I mean, I like started tearing up because
isn't that beautiful?
I had no idea the influence, but it was all because I just wanted to get better and make others better. As all of this just opened up this incredible avenue, which I had no idea that existed.
We don't realize how much influence we have as just one person. I like to think of the fact that all of us are connected. Everything is connected. There's nothing on this planet that isn't connected to each other. But we forget how wonderful we really are. We're told to. We're told not to admire yourself. You're told all these other things. You're being self-centered. All these things to stop you from realizing how beautiful, how powerful, how influential we all are to each other. And I think COVID was a blessing in a way because we realized how much it hurts to be told to stay away from each other.
So now, once again, Bam and I are pushing each other because he has.
Oh,
not
you hooked
stopped.
up with Bam again?
No, not yet.
Okay,
not yet. But we're going to. Yeah, but I've seen Bam. Like we keep in touch at social media, which definitely like I'll link all the stuff in this video. But once again, he's pushing me to keep being the best person I can. So I'm training this summer for playing lacrosse, and I honestly I was a little reluctant to come on this podcast.
Okay, what was that?
I didn't think honestly I had much to talk about.
Do you feel like you did now?
I do now.
So where are you going from now?
From now, I plan to keep being a learning assistant. Right now, I'm hopefully going to be a learning assistant for this class called Modern Physics. So it's all the physics from quantum mechanics in 1900s or 1920s onward. And so I'm going to be a learning assistant for that, hopefully. And I'm trying to also get into particle physics research, or at least some sort of high energy nuclear physics.
To hope to find out what? What are you looking to find out?
Well, there are a couple of things that we could hope to find. But right now, there's this new string theory, or not so new.
It's been
It's
out
been
for a while.
developing for a
It
while,
has been.
but still,
Didn't they stop it for a second or something? I think they had a lot of. It was a big hype for a second, and they talked about. Then all of a sudden, somebody said it wasn't, or it doesn't
there
exist, or.
there was a lot of criticism,
Hmm.
and so for a while there is like a lot of stagnant, um, because the math was just a little too advanced, but it was because we were kind of barking up the wrong tree, and a lot of other mathematical framework had to be in place before we could connect the roads that we were trying to pave before.
Okay.
And so string theory predicts at least 10 dimensions. So there's the 3 spatial dimensions which we live in, right? We could go forward and backward, side to side, up and down. And then there's also a time dimension, which we can go forward in time. And I mean, since we have mass, we can like only go forward in time is the one of the ideas right now. But string theory predicts that there are 6 more additional dimensions, but those dimensions have to be coiled up into a space smaller than physically possible to probe. But there are signs which we can see, which would be evidence for string theory, and one of which is more higher energy particles. So particles of maybe heavier mass that have certain charge, certain spin, and all of these we can't really access right now. The math says that they're there. The math can predict everything that we know right now and explains why it must be that way, but it also predicts more. So right now, one of the hopes is to find maybe one of those particles, or another area of research is neutrinos. So they're like very, very light, small particles, and they rarely interact. I mean, at this very moment, there's about 10 billion passing through our fingernail, and we can't feel them because they just go right through us. But out of the large amount that passes through us, there's a good chance that one of them will interact with something inside. Maybe it'll bounce off of one of our atoms, but that still won't like affect us. We won't get like radiation sickness from that, and we won't even feel it. But there are detectors which have to be very, very sensitive, very deep underground, that can detect them, and sort of the trajectory of the neutrinos and the energies can give researchers some sort of background as to where they came from and how they were made. So there's actually quite a lot that I can get into. And there's a lot of good professors I'd love to work with at Virginia Tech.
There's a whole lot. There's some areas I'm going to talk to you about as soon as we finish this. You've been in Japan. You've been here a couple of times, haven't you?
Yes, sir. This is actually my 5th time here.
5th time. What is it like for you this time?
Well, this time, it's the longest stay I've been here.
How long are you going to be here this time?
I'm going to be here for about 2 months.
2 months, okay.
I'm leaving right after my birthday in August.
All right.
And so while I'm here, I've gotten the chance to connect with some local lacrosse, including Tokyo Box Lacrosse. So it's like an indoor lacrosse league, played in a hockey rink, but just with lacrosse.
Right, and you don't have to have all the padding because they're going to be a little bit nicer and kinder.
Kind of the opposite.
Since it's harder?
It's a lot closer quarters, and anything flies, so you can just hit people in the back.
So you have to wear all your stuff.
And more.
Okay.
So I actually had to get rib pads because they can hit you in the ribs, and I don't want like a broken rib.
They do?
And it's totally legal. It's just part of the game. And
look at him down there. He's totally legal. All the body's broken. But it's legal. Don't worry.
Get up,
get up, man. Come on. Stop rolling around the ground like that.
Right.
That's something.
And I've also gotten the chance to practice with some of the club teams here, like including Falcons Lacrosse.
Since I've seen you last?
Well, these are
you haven't
planned.
Planned. Okay. I was about to say.
I've also
I've seen your bruises.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're gonna have them.
Yes, I will. But I'm looking forward to it. And I've also gotten the chance to join a gym here, so keep in shape and help my training. But there's also a lot of important physics that happens here.
Like what?
Well, there is a there's a laboratory, high energy particle physics laboratory, about an hour and a half from here,
Okay.
called Keck Laboratory. And one of my professors at Virginia Tech actually works there a lot. And he's kind of a very important piece in that. His name is Professor Pielanen, and he's also teaching this class that I want to be a learning assistant for next semester.
Is he here now?
I don't think so, but he is. Him and his research assistants will be here later this summer.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll get to meet with them.
That's neat.
And that's just one physics laboratory. There's a bunch more, including a lot of space called JAXA.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that because I've had the astronaut on. I had the third woman to go in outer space here. And the young lady right now, Aki Take, who's the third Miss Bachelorette they've had in Japan for this big show they're having. So I've had her podcast she's had with me go up, and it's been flying. I mean, we call viral if we're in the 3 digits. So hers have been viral because she's up there, and I told her she needs to come back in. She was going to become an astronaut, and she decided to opt out and to give the astronauts in that area, JAXA, more publicity by getting into Miss Universe. And she went into Miss Universe. And she's a pretty young lady, yeah. And she was sitting right where you are. And she did an interview on that. And then I had the astronaut, what's her name? Yamazaki-san. She was here. And my son came because he wanted to see her in person. So they took a picture together. Oh, yeah. They're all here. I've got a couple of scientists on. Oh, yes. We're going to take it all the way. I'll have you here someday, Neil. Anyway.
And because of like all the opportunities here, I could definitely see myself living here later. I still want to go into teaching. So hopefully the dream right now, one of the dreams, is to become a professor. After I do a couple years teaching high school, I want to go to graduate school, and then be a professor perhaps here and study particle physics here as well. And I mean, that would really be the dream come true.
Oh, it will happen because Japan needs people like you. You'll be here. There's no doubt about it.
I need people,
the
Japanese people.
Tell me about it. It's a hard place to leave. If you have something of value, and that's what they really, really hone in on, people of value, you'll do very well here because you're coming to give something. You're not trying to take anything. You're trying to give something. And everyone loves a giver. I like to ask this question. If you could go back in time and meet the younger Greg and give him advice based upon what you know now, like those little kids you see playing hockey out there or whatever they're doing, what advice would you give him and how old would he be?
Yeah, 11 to 12. I was in middle school, and I would tell my younger self to follow your heart, trust your instincts, follow your heart, always do what you think is right, and that in order to be who you want to be, you have to let go of who you were. So.
Fantastic, Greg.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for being here. I want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and never forget, it's all on loan, so continue to reach for the stars.
Because you're too blessed to be stressed.